6 or 7 years ago, we all witnessed the pile-on the British media had towards Raheem Sterling, who at the time was one of England's standout players, one of the Premier League's biggest stars, and a top-class international. The misinterpretation of tattoos on his body, these consistent headlines of him being flashy and almost sort of disrespectful to the working class masses because he was buying his mother a home, or where he bought. If he bought clothes in Primark, he was disrespecting us. If he spent millions of pounds on a house, he was disrespecting us. And it was very, very uncomfortable reading because there was zero bad press. He wasn't in terms of him misbehaving, breaking the law, doing crazy things. He was a settled down man with children, playing football and delivering. And I understand the criticism of a football player who is misbehaving, going out and getting drunk, gambling, getting into problems with his wife, someone who's not performing on the football pitch being criticized. These things all make sense irrespective of who you are or any of the immutable factors of your person. But I have to say, England were awful last night, and there was lots of performances that should have been called out. But I was absolutely shocked to wake up this morning and see here, maybe not at the back of the Sun, but this is the back of the Sun, Saka's face as the poster boy of the failure when he barely kicked a ball in the game because he's only just returned to the squad. You had the BBC using an image of Saka to look at the disastrous report. You had, I think this is the Telegraph, using a picture of Saka to characterize the poor performance and display. And it's beyond uncomfortable. It is absolutely, in my opinion, beyond uncomfortable. There was another newspaper that was shared that did have a picture of Harry Kane on there as well, as you can see here, with a small picture of Gareth Southgate and Ramsdale. But again, front and center, the main poster boy of yesterday's defeat was Bukayo Saka. What we also saw was one of the strangest halftime. It was a tweet, but it was sharing an article that spoke about Kobbie Mainoo, and it says, does he possess the discipline to play the number 6 role when he wasn't playing the number 6 role? Yes, the graphic shows him in a double pivot, but if you watch the vast majority of the game, he was invariably anywhere between 5 to 15 yards ahead of Declan Rice, drifting to the left and the right-hand side. They interchanged in that a little bit, but he was definitely playing what you would call a more advanced midfield role, an 8 role, if you like, or a box-to-box role. And there was definitely instructions from the manager for there only to be one midfield player left. Then if fullbacks are being caught out of position, there was space to be counterattacks. And that was more of a system issue than individual players, in my humble opinion. But what I found exceedingly uncomfortable is the way Mainoo was being spoken about at halftime. Ten Hag spoke about this the other day, about how the English press has this habit of building somebody up just to knock them down. And it felt like the seed was being planted for that yesterday. The goal that England conceded had very little, if anything, to do with Mainoo. It was Phil Foden that lost his man. It was Walker that was out of position. It was poor defending from John Stones and not particularly good goalkeeping from Ramsdale. None of those individual mentioned, but Mainoo was. And then when it comes to the Saka treatment, Saka has been nothing but fantastic for England. He has been an absolute revelation, player of the year 2 seasons running, amazing at the previous tournament at the World Cup, has bounced back from that penalty miss in the Euros, and that was the 2020 Euros, but that was played in 2021, and he has just been amazing. And the pile-on is crazy. And I've reflected on my own behavior in the past in terms of, do you know what? I'm not happy with the player at Man United and I'm criticizing him, but maybe the world's all going in a little bit too much. I'm going to pull back a little bit. I'm going to be a bit more responsible. I'm not going to add to this pile on more. And the media know that international tournaments can be a very tumultuous time for England fans and for those players. And that, the media isn't directly responsible for any grown-ups' actions or any child's actions, really. But they do have a responsibility to play here. There's no need to do this to Mainoo. There is absolutely zero reason to make Saka the poster boy of yesterday's embarrassing defeat when he was a bit part player that came on, when the likes of Harry Kane, the likes of Phil Foden, the likes of John Stones, Ramsdale, senior pros who started the game were far more at fault for us losing than he was. Now, I want to gain your views and opinions on it. Why do you think they're doing this? Is Saka and Mainoo now going through that process that we have seen before, that Raheem Sterling went through? Are we seeing the build-up and the knockdown begin this close to a tournament to try and create scapegoats if we fail? We know that's then going to lead to racial abuse from the absolute scumbags and the amoebas out there as well. And I just think the English press needs to be a little bit more responsible here, think a lot more, because this is, in my personal opinion, an absolute disgrace. But I want your views and I want your opinions on it, people. Let me know in the comment section below. Now, moving away from this, I want to take a listen to what Simon Jordan had to say about the Manchester City situation, because this is really interesting. Take a little listen, people.
You're doing at this moment in time, I think, is an absolute disgrace. I think they're bringing the game into disrepute. You can't join a club, boys, and then go into the club and go, I tell you what, I don't like the rules, so not only am I going to sue the club, I'm going to sue all its members. What did they say? The tyranny of the majority. Oh, so what would you bloody rather have? The tyranny of the minority then? What's the next thing then? We decide that we don't like the rules anymore, so we're not going to play X amount of games. It's an outrage. You can't have one club, because it's got more money than everybody else, suddenly decide that it's going to sue the framework in which it's participating and change the rules. It's appalling. And if I were in the Premier League now, I would be campaigning to expel them.
I mean, that's a really, really big claim there from Simon Jordan. There's some of it that we'll get onto the expelling element. Do you think Man City should be expelled from the Premier League for suing the EPL and essentially suing the other clubs? Because the Premier League is a partnership that's made up of all the other clubs. They're 1/20th of the Premier League. So they're kind of suing themselves a little bit as well. Where I think he's right is the element that's really stuck in my throat this last week. And I know City fans will take this personally, but it's this tyranny of the majority. That same tyranny that they have inflicted on other people just this week by voting against VAR being taken away. If it gets voted through, also they got involved so that it was voted through that clubs could sell their assets to sister companies. They voted in favor of that. So in the last week, they've used the same power they're complaining about, the same power they are partially suing the EPL over. They have utilized it themselves. This is like a vegetarian or a vegan campaignist becoming a butcher. This is like a stop the oil protester buying a diesel van. This reminds me of the celebrities who go on about climate change but fly around in private jets almost daily. There is such an hypocrisy to it. And we all as human beings are capable of hypocrisy. You'll probably be able to look at, Terry, I remember you saying this and now you've got a different opinion or your mind's changed. Or we all do this individually because we are flawed, but we should all be called out on these things to become better people. I certainly listen to you, my community, in that way. So I do agree with where Simon Jordan is coming from here. Yes, they think that the rule that has been brought in is unlawful. So I understand taking legal action in relation to that to a certain degree. The elements like that are sticking in my throat is the tyranny of the majority. As Simon Jordan just said, well, what's the alternative? The tyranny of the minority. The more powerful, richer clubs get to dictate exactly what happens. That doesn't exist right now. And that's what I always find really funny. People talk about there's a cartel and the big clubs control things. Do they? There are more smaller clubs, quote unquote, than there are bigger clubs. And if City don't consider themselves part of the big club group, then there's a much bigger group of smaller clubs like them that they can work alongside. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So the court case is going to start on Monday. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. In terms of expulsion, this has opened up a can of worms. I don't want to see there is a part of me that doesn't want to see Man City get in trouble. And that part of me cares about the fans. So I get a lot of people say, Terry, you just want to see Manchester City destroyed. I don't, because it was a club that was built by the working classes of Manchester that has become a national and now an international phenomenon. And I don't want that football club to be taken away from its fans, which, if they're expelled from the Premier League, if everybody starts to counter-sue them, if they're found guilty of the 115, if it turns out these owners have absolutely, agreeing to abide by rules and then cheating them, and it ruins the club and they are title stripped, they get sued, they go out of business, they go into administration, whatever it may be, that won't be a good day for football. As much as you will have people celebrate it, it will not be a good day for football. It will be a disastrous day for those fans, and I don't want them to go through it. But in that same breath, the reason that I think these rules have to be in place is we have to protect football clubs, and we have to protect them from themselves. As we went through on Straight Facts, go back and watch the show yesterday, Straight Facts with Staffy and Lawless. Just before FFP and profit and sustainability regulations came in, we had 2 or 3 big clubs in Britain that had billionaire owners that went into administration and went bust because of 50 to 70 million pounds worth of debts. We are now talking about owners that are running up debts and potential tax bills that could go into the hundreds of millions, if not billions. The risk of clubs going out of business will, if willy-nilly spending, if all these rules are taken away, will grow exponentially. And everybody thinks it won't be me, it'll be okay. It could be. There's a crazy stat out there. I'm actually going to Google it while I'm talking. What percentage of lottery winners go broke? It's quite a big percentage. There we go. 70%. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt because they overspend and overcommit. There's a large percentage, I think it's around 25 to 30% of Premier League football players go bankrupt. They continue to spend after they stop playing like they were like they are playing, and the money runs out really quickly. The point I'm making is that we almost need, as football, I'm talking fans, governing bodies, etc., need to protect football clubs from themselves. Oh, look, let's let this owner buy us. Let's let this owner buy us. He's going to pump £20 billion in over the next 20 years. Is he? Will he really? Will he not get bored? I believe the Romans and the Sheikh Mansours are the outliers. I don't believe they're the rule. Go back from 2005 into 2012 and look at the rulings and look at the situations that until these laws came in, so many clubs would have gone out of business without these rules, in my humble opinion. But look, as ever, your opinions matter so much more than mine on the Football Terrace. Leave us your comments below. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace.